I'm Rhett. I am both the coach of the Pittsburgh Steel Types and also one of your admins here for the VBA. I want to give everybody a quick rundown on how the drafting is going to work, the systems in place, give a brief overview of what to expect in getting set up, and then also we're going to run through any questions that we think people might have, and then at the end we'll talk about how you can actually log in to the website and claim your account. With me here is Sam. He is Ruby T, the coach of the Sussex Sableyes.
Hey guys, how you doing? Thanks for having me. Really good to be here. I'm kind of here to help provide a newcomer's look at draft leagues. I think having it's my first season playing the draft league, and I think to help Rhett kind of discuss with you guys some of the points that maybe he wouldn't think of because he's kind of a lot more experienced. So yeah, it should be fun and really excited to get going.
Yeah, fantastic. So the VBA is a draft league in the mold of the WBE, which is the premier draft league for VGC. That's the league that Wolfie and Cybertron and people like that play in. We've made a couple adjustments to the rules to support the fact that not everybody in our league is going to be uploading to YouTube, although I'm pretty excited because a lot of people are. And I'm really hopeful that we can all, as a community, support each other and do a lot to grow everybody's channels at the same time. So, Sam, I think the first thing that we should do is go through the basics of drafting.
Yeah, sounds good.
So, there are essentially 6 tiers that you can choose from when you're drafting, and each tier matches with specific slots on your team. So the tiers, well, I guess there's sort of 7 tiers, but one of them doesn't really count, right? So there's banned, right? Banned Pokemon are ones that you cannot pick. Those are like box legendaries and stuff like that.
Sure, it makes sense.
The next tier is Gmax. So any Pokemon with a Gmax form that isn't banned goes in that tier. Each team can only have one.
Right. Okay. So you kind of it doesn't matter how good the Pokemon is. If it has a Gmax form, and it's not banned, it goes in that tier. And
Exactly.
that's that,
So
right?
so you'll see both, for example, Gmax Rillaboom and Gmax Eevee in that tier.
Yeah, it's exactly the sort of thing I was thinking, right?
Yeah. If it has a Gmax form, it goes in that tier.
Okay.
The next tier is tier one. That's where a lot of the competitively viable Pokemon that you see a lot in VGC are.
Hmm.
Things like Landorus, the Tapus. They're all in tier one. Tier two is kind of the next step down. This is Pokemon that are good, but maybe a little more situational.
Sure.
Like I think Scrafty is tier two. Hitmontop, a lot of the kind of supportive Pokemon, or Pokemon like regular Venusaur, who,
Right, I got you.
yeah, good, not as good as it used to be,
Right, right, right.
you know,
Kind of, you might see one floating around the ladder. You might play against one or two in a team, but it's not something that you're going to look at and go, "Oh, okay, yeah, it's not your Togekiss or your." Although I say that Togekiss isn't as popular as it was last season.
that's
So
true.
yeah, it's not one of your big like 20 Pokemon, whatever it is. I don't know the numbers exactly, but
Right.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. You're not going to see a ton of Metamons in there, although occasionally you'll see some of them if they're, weaker or, sometimes more supportive. They might show up in tier two. You've also got tier three, which is
Hmm.
Pokemon who are, just, I don't want to say they're not good Pokemon, but they're they're a step down even from the tier twos. So it's not just that they're not Pokemon you'd expect to see on a team, but they're Pokemon that you might look at and be like, that's a odd pick, you know.
They leave a little something to be desired.
In a lot of cases, especially compared to the higher tier ones. Um, and then there's tier four, and tier four you're gonna see a lot of not fully evolved Pokemon. You're gonna
Yeah,
see like you might see like Grookey in tier four.
yeah,
A Pokemon that's got a good ability, um, you know, and maybe you could run it with Eviolite, but it's
got you.
yeah, and but occasionally you get um, other Pokemon in that tier that are just not
Bad.
well. Yeah, I mean, by most standards, or at least outclassed by other options.
Right, that
You
makes
know,
sense. Yeah, sure.
like for example, Galarian Weezing is a tier two, and
Yeah.
Cantonian Weezing is a tier four.
Oh, okay. So they're both very similar, but the added fairy typing just gives Galarian Weezing that boost.
Right, and
Um,
also it has two good abilities versus one good ability,
right.
um,
Yeah. Okay.
and it gets access to a couple extra really useful support moves and stuff like that. It just edges it out.
That's a
Um,
nice way to explain that. I think Pokemon that are so similar, but one difference in ability, a couple of extra support moves, and it does make a difference between a lower tier and a kind of mid or higher tier. So yeah.
yeah, especially in a draft league, right? Because since you can change your set for each Pokemon every week, a
Hmm.
Pokemon that has a lot of options tends to be a more valuable pick than one that has just a couple of options. A
Hmm.
Pokemon that does
That makes sense.
one thing very well is good, but a Pokemon that can do five or six things reasonably well over the course of the season can serve you a lot better in a lot of
I guess that
cases.
makes sense because I suppose in a draft league, if you're prepping to face the next challenger, you're not if you're playing on the ladder or something, you're kind of I need to set up my team to beat everything, or at least as much as I can. Whereas with
Right.
a draft league, you're saying I need to beat this opponent. I know his 11 Pokemon,
Exactly.
and if I've got Pokemon X who can do five or six things, he doesn't know which I'm gonna run, how I'm gonna set it up. So yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah. And it gives you more ability to figure out new and inventive ways to counter strategies that you see the other person might be bringing.
Hmm.
Um, so the last tier is 2 week, and the 2 week tier is basically anything that um, that's that you're just probably not gonna pick. Um,
Sure.
like Pichu is 2 week, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's
Right. Yeah.
and you still have the option to pick from the 2 week tier if there's something
Hmm.
in there that you think is actually going to be really good for your team. You can do it, but you know most of the time that's not going to make sense,
On the whole, it's going to be kind of just the more trashy Pokemon. You're not going to use them
right?
unless you find a real particular niche. But yeah, no, that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah.
Again,
I mean, if you really want to draft Caterpie, go for it. It's in the 2 week tier. That's where you'll find it.
you know,
But
focus
so
sash string shot,
I guess,
make it work.
um, but yeah. So those Pokemon in the 2 week tier aren't even going to be listed on the draft website. Um, so the next thing I want to talk about is free slots. Okay, so you get 250 points to spend on free slots, and each tier comes with a specific cost. So tier one Pokemon are 100 points, tier two are 75, Tier 3 are 50, and Tier 4 and below are 25. You cannot draft a GMAX with a free slot. So each team only gets one GMAX, period, full stop. So you have a lot of flexibility with your free slots. If you really like Tier 1 Pokemon and you want to have as many as possible, you could take 2 free slots of Tier 1 Pokemon and then 2 Tier 4s in your second 2. If you want to be a little bit more balanced, you could take 4 Tier 2 Pokemon in your... Is that right? 75, 150, 125... No, 150...
Yeah.
225... No, you couldn't do that. You could take...
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah,
Right.
I'm trying to do the maths in my head while you do it.
Yeah, so... But you can decide what's more important to you. Is it more important to have all of your mons be a little better, or do you want to have a couple specific go-tos that you use almost every match, and then it might be worth spending a whole lot of free points on them?
Right. So if you go after an extra Tier 1 Pokemon, great, you've got another really strong Pokemon, but the diversity of what you might bring is going to be decreased.
Right. Even Tier 4 Pokemon have a lot of options, right? So there's you're not necessarily at a handicap if you have a bunch of Tier 4 Pokemon, but a more balanced hand might be easier to work with. So that's going to be one of the things that everybody has to decide for themselves.
I suppose that will also be kind of reflective, right? So until you've drafted your first bunch of Pokemon, you might not know how you want to use your free slot points.
That's true, yeah. However, we are encouraging everybody to have a short list, right? Have a list of Pokemon from each tier that you are looking at, because the rules give everybody 2 minutes max to make a decision.
Right.
You want to be able to make your decision in that time, and if possible, quicker. It's worth remembering, if everybody in the league takes 2 minutes on every single pick, that's a 6-hour draft, because we've got 16 people drafting 11 Pokemon. And I don't know about you guys. I don't particularly want to do a 6-hour draft. We will if we have to, but hopefully people will make their choices a little quicker. But
I'm sure it'll be okay.
Yeah. And we do have a system in place for if people take longer than 2 minutes. And that system is the draft penalty. So the way draft penalties work is, if you take too long to make your pick, and we're going to be pretty strict about this because we got to keep things moving for time reasons, you lose that pick and it gets moved to the end of the draft. So you will essentially lose your opportunity to draft that round. Draft will keep going, and then at the very, very end of the draft, everybody with draft penalties will get to pick in the order that those penalties were applied.
Got you. That makes sense.
You have a lot less options.
Sure.
Now you can choose whatever order you want to draft in, right? So that doesn't mean that if you miss your second pick, then you don't get a Tier 1 until the end, right? It's not that harsh. But the Tier 1s might be a little bit more picked over, and you might not be able to get as good of a Tier 1 to fit the team you're trying to build.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, that makes total sense. I think that does seem necessary, because, like you say, obviously, if there's nothing to stop everyone taking as much time as they want, it will be there all night.
Yeah,
take forever.
And in fact, there was actually a season 0 of the VBA, and in season 0, it actually took about 3 days to finish the draft because people were taking so long to make their
Yeah.
choices. So, one of the things that was our goal in writing the rules was to find a way to enforce a faster draft.
Well, I think that seems like the most sensible option. I think that seems like yeah, it's a punishment. It's not too harsh, you know. You're not going to be booted out of the league, but it's severe enough that you don't want to mess around taking too long to draft your Pokemon.
Exactly. And remember, you always have the option to appoint a proxy, right?
Right.
If if there's like if you can't make it at a certain time, but you have somebody else that you trust to draft your team, you can pass it off to them, have them do it. You can also like if it gets to be too late and you just like you have to go to work or
Sure,
something,
sure.
you know like if you have somebody that you trust, you can pass it on to them.
Okay.
But obviously we're hoping that everybody will be serious about either having a plan for that or just making sure they're available when the draft is scheduled.
Sure. Just
So
be there.
yeah, I mean
Be there, get it done.
that's the thing, and that's one of the reasons why um, we wanted to make sure that everybody knew when the draft was and could read through the rules before they signed up for the VBA, was because we wanted to make sure that people would be prepared for that.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
do you have any questions, or is there anything that
Yeah, I got a few questions. Just I think you have answered some of these to me possibly while we've been talking. But just things that I think I wasn't sure of at first. And maybe they'll help someone else. I don't know. So you don't when we so there are 11 rounds of the draft, I presume.
yes,
Um, and you can draft from any tier at any time. Is that
correct,
correct?
yes,
So, for example, if you were first in the draft and I was second, you drafted Gmax Charizard. I could draft Happiny if I wanted to.
yeah,
I wouldn't have to choose my Gmax first. I could do it in any order I like.
correct. And
Okay. Okay. Good.
there's some strategy that goes into when you draft which tier, to try and make
Right.
sure you get the ones you want. The
So
other
you may particularly want a terrain or something for a plan you've got. So someone may be drafting Gmax Pokemon, you take a Tapu or Rillaboom or Indeedee or something like that, right?
Sure, yeah. The other thing
Cool.
that I forgot to explain is that we're using a snake draft. So what that means is, a couple days before the draft, we will put together a randomized draft order. All 16 coaches will be put on a list. We'll randomize it, and then whoever's at the top of that list drafts first. And it goes
Yeah.
straight down the list. When we get to the bottom of the list, that person makes two picks, and it proceeds back
Yeah,
up the
right.
list. That way, there's less of an advantage for going first. Um,
Yeah, it should even out across the whole thing
right.
where you pick. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense to me.
The other thing that I forgot to cover that I really want to make sure people understand is there are some Pokemon with multiple forms, and we have specific rules in place about how to handle that, and it's different
Okay.
whether they're legendary or not. So,
Hmm. You beat
non
me to one of my questions.
ah, so a
Perfect.
non-legendary Pokemon with multiple forms like Rotom is drafted separately, right? Rotom Wash and Rotom Heat are considered separate Pokemon for the purpose of the draft.
Hmm.
Multiple, one person can take one, another person can take the other, on down. Um, there's a couple exceptions: Gorgeist and Silvally and Type Null. So
Hmm.
Gorgeist um, is kind of a weird Pokemon because it's essentially got four stat blocks. And so when you draft it,
Yeah.
you actually get all 4 of those stat blocks. You can use it whichever one you want. And you can
Got you.
change it between matches. So each week you can have a different stat block if you want. It
Hmm.
is ranked a little higher than it otherwise would be for that flexibility.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Silvally and type null, um, you draft it and you can change out the item to get whatever typing you want with it. So it
That's pretty cool.
yeah, it's not like Silvally Fairy and Silvally Steel are
Got you.
considered different
Yeah.
mons. Once somebody drafts it, they get access to all of them. So that's a,
It's
pretty nice.
yeah. It's not everyone gets a Silvally.
Right.
There's one. Yeah. No. Sure. That makes sense. So what
And
about things like the genies and their forms?
yeah, so
Um.
that's next. Um,
Cool.
Legendaries with multiple forms work a little differently. So you
Hmm.
can draft either form, and um, the second form is removed from the draft. So if you draft
Okay.
Tornadus Therian form, um, Tornadus Incarnate is removed from the draft. It's moved into the banned section, and nobody can draft it. So you have to choose. Do you want, like, first of all, you have to choose which one you want, and then only one person gets it.
Hmm.
The only exception uh,
Right.
is Gmax Pokemon, like Urshifu. Um,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
Gmax Pokemon are listed separately from their non Gmax counterparts, um, you can have somebody pick either Rapid Strike or Single Strike Urshifu in Tier 1, and somebody else can pick either Rapid Strike or Single Strike Urshifu in Gmax. And in
Yeah.
both cases, whichever one is not picked is moved to the banned column.
Right.
It's,
That makes sense. So
yeah,
you can only have one Gmax Urshifu. So let's say Gmax Urshifu was the dark variant. You could
mhm.
then not have regular Urshifu dark variant. You'd have to have regular water
No,
Urshifu. Is that right?
no,
No,
that's
sorry.
not
Okay.
right. So if, say, the Sussex Sableyes draft Gmax water type Urshifu,
Yeah.
um, Gmax dark type Urshifu is removed from the game. Nobody else can
Yeah.
draft Gmax Urshifu. But
Hmm.
in Tier 1, both the water type and the dark type Urshifu are still available to be drafted.
Right. Got you.
And
I
then if
understand.
somebody drafts one of them, the other one is also removed.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
This
Okay.
is,
So there's one Urshifu per tier.
yes.
Um. Yeah. Totally understand. Yeah.
Okay. And then it works the same way with legendary regional forms. So
Okay.
if somebody decides to draft Galarian Articuno, regular Articuno is removed. If somebody
Right.
goes for Cantonian Zapdos, Galarian Zapdos is removed. So
Makes sense.
once again, there's a little bit of strategy here. Like, generally speaking, Articuno and Moltres aren't considered to be the best in their Cantonian forms.
Hmm.
But you could potentially decide, I want to use my tier 2 slot to take one of them to prevent somebody else from getting uh, the
A tier
Galarian
one.
version in their tier 1 slot.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool.
So, you can decide what you want to do with that, but I thought that was kind of a cool interaction to have there.
I like that a lot. Yeah. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. Okay. I think that answers my question, certainly from where I was coming from. Because I think that kind of it was just something I was wondering about, really. Like, are there going to be two Landorus, two Articunos, two Moltres? But no, as you say, it's going to be one of each. Okay. So my last question was, and again, it's maybe difficult to answer. How did you decide on the tier list for the newer Pokemon? Um,
So yeah, that was a big project. We actually, all told, it took us about 5 hours to go through and work our way through each Pokemon. We started by looking at the legendaries, and the first question we asked was, "Are there any of these Pokemon that aren't Tier One?" And
mhm.
it turned out the answer was only a couple. And those were
Okay.
mostly, I think it was just Moltres and Articuno from
The
Kanto.
Vultures and Articuno, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they're not great. Uh, so we moved them
Worst
down.
Charizard and just yeah, I mean just they're not great, are
Yeah.
they? They're really not
Um,
great.
they both have a few options that are different from similarly typed Pokemon. And in fact, I had a team years ago that used Moltres back in, I think it was 2016. It was a good pick for that team, but it's not a Pokemon that works well on most teams.
Hmm.
So the
No,
next step
sure.
the next step was to go through the tier ones after we had added all the legendaries and say, okay, who doesn't really belong in this list anymore? Who can't stand next to these legendaries and
Hmm.
pull their weight? And so a whole
Yeah.
bunch of Pokemon that had been tier one during Series 5 and Series 6 came down. Um,
Hmm.
then we went back to the new Pokemon and we said, okay, so who's in line with the ones we moved down? Brought those in, and then we go through
Yeah.
tier two, or yeah, and say, okay, who doesn't line, like who's not as good, and we just kept
Yeah.
going through that process.
That kind of
And
follows down for each tier.
exactly, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm pretty happy with how the tiers turned out. This for all four of us who are in the VBA admin team, this was actually our first time ever actually tiering ourselves. We've all played draft
Hmm.
leagues before, but we've never actually been the ones responsible for doing tiering. So it's possible we made some mistakes somewhere, but hopefully they'll be minor if they exist. And of course, as always, this is Series One, so it's going to be a learning experience, and we'll plan to do better in Series Two.
Well, I think I speak for all of us who are involved and say we appreciate the amount of effort you've put in. I mean, we wouldn't be involved if you guys hadn't have done all of that. So if there are any little bugs, I'm sure we can move past them.
Yeah.
You know, I think again, I'm so excited to get started. I really can't wait. It's gonna be so much fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited too. It's really awesome to see everything coming together. And speaking of things coming together, um, by the time you guys see this video, we should actually be live on the draftleague.nl website, so you can actually right now go and get your accounts. And once everybody's accounts are claimed, that's when we'll be able to set up the draft bot and get things rolling in terms of getting ready for the draft. Plus, you can start going over the tier list, looking at the Pokemon that are available, and start strategizing what you think you might want to pick. So the way to do that, first thing, is you have to join the Automathic um, uh, Discord server. And I'll put a link to that both in the description of this video and also in the Discord where you guys can see it. Um, and after you do that, what you want to do is you want to send a DM to Automathic himself. Tell him uh, the name of your team uh, and the league that you're playing in. So, Sam, you'll tell him, I'm Sam, I'm the coach of the Sussex Sableyes, and, I'm playing in the VBA. And then he will send you your instructions on how to claim your account. Once all the accounts have been claimed, we'll be set up. We'll be officially ready to go, and all that will be left at that point will be to draft and start playing.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, any questions that you think people might have about that process? It's pretty simple.
I think it does sound pretty simple. I mean, I can only speak from experience. When you've got any questions, most of it's in the rules. The rules document, the extensive rules document that has been perfectly crafted and put together. I know every time I've asked you a question on our other Discord, you just said, "Oh, it does say this in the rules," and then I look in the rules, and yeah, it does. So I think that would be my advice. Go read the rules.
Yeah.
Read the rules. Be available for the draft.
Yeah. And
that's my only advice.
And claim your accounts, because we can't
Claim your account.
we can't set up the draft until everybody's claimed their account. So it's important that everybody do it sooner rather than later. Don't wait until the day before the draft, because then the draft's not going to happen on that day. You know, we can't
Sure.
We can't get the draft bot set up until everybody's claimed. So that's important to do soon.
Claim your accounts now.
Yes.
Now. There you go. Everyone will definitely do it now.
Yes, perfect.
That's guaranteed. Easy job.
All right.
No, I don't have any questions apart from that. Other than, again, thanks for all the effort you put in, and I really can't wait to get started.
Yeah,
so.
Well, we're all real happy to do it. You know, we're excited to play too, and you know, we're real proud of the work we've done. So, you know, it's really exciting to be sharing it with all of you guys. So, in the meantime, definitely go claim your accounts. Start thinking about what you want to draft. Put together your short list. Be ready on draft day. And while you're here, please give me a like if you like this video. Comment and subscribe. You know, we're going to have another conversation, me and Sam, after the draft, when we're going to be going over what everybody's drafted and all the teams, and kind of talking through what we see in each of the teams. And, you know, so I hope you'll join us for that as well. Plus, of course,
hope to see you there.
Yeah. And then, of course, all of my matches for the VBA are going to be uploaded on this YouTube channel as well. So I hope you guys will check those out as well.
I certainly will.
Yeah.
If nothing else, it means I can have a look at what you're doing. All of my matches will be on my YouTube channel as well. So yeah, I think most of the guys have got something to show their matches on.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got any questions for Rhett, ask them in the comments down below, and ask them in several tiered comments if you want to. That's fine. You can do that.
You can do that.
Yeah. No. No. Yeah. Like I say, I can't wait. It's gonna be so much fun.
Yeah. All right, guys. I'll see you in the Discord. Thanks.